the value, and it wasn't dangerous, it wasn't damaging. It was almost as if his presence, right, which is quite a big guy, you know, it could be dominating, but it's almost as if it stops here. His energy engaged with my boundary, but it wasn't imposition. It was invitation, and it was invitation to inquire, just as we were talking last night as we came back. If you were to research that, I think you would make a really important contribution, because it's all focused on the relationship between the educator and the student and how that can stimulate the creativity of the student. So really vital that. And if I show you this, and I do wish I could persuade, especially the Norwegian group here, that when you say about modesty, unfortunately, it's such a lovely quality, but it gets in the way of research being made public. Yeah? How many of you know Carrie's PhD? Any of you? 1. Yeah? 2, 3, 4 out of 50.
Excuse me, don't you have to publish it in the National Library?
It's on the British Library. I did it at the University of Birmingham, so it's made public.
Okay, so how many in this room? 50 or so people? Now, Carrie, I value you very much, if you would. Yeah, thanks.
But the thing is that when it comes to visual accounts, it's very difficult in Norway, because you have to preserve anonymity. But when Jack was my external examiner and in my Viva, and he encouraged me to make a visual account. And the way I did it was to just write afterword in my thesis. And then I asked my colleague, Tormod, to be a kind of interviewer. And we made a film. It was before we met. And it's part of my thesis, so you can find it on the internet too. But the thing was that it was a breakthrough at Birmingham, at the University of Birmingham, because Jack had to ask of the permission of the university to make a visual account as a claim of validity and credibility. And I think that made a change even at the University of Birmingham. But the thing was also that the eye, putting the eye into the thesis, was not very appropriate at that time. And I still remember one day a Muslim colleague came into the study room. It's fixed on my inner eye. And I said to her that I'm so confused because I want to write up my thesis putting the eye as a narrative, my own personal experience as a teacher, educator in Norway in religious education. And she said, just 1 year ago, I was in the same situation as you are now. But I went into the educational library and I found one thesis being written in that way. And the title of this thesis was Swimming Against the Tide. And I went into the library, I borrowed the thesis, and I couldn't stop reading before I had read the whole thesis through, even though it was in mathematics. But everything came into coherence, it was logic, and I could write up the thesis. And it wasn't too bad, wasn't it? I think. But there was another thing too which convinced me of this life-affirming energy. It was when my two more positivists supervisors, I forgot what I was going to. they organize a fake viva. A fake viva is when you are examined in a very strong and
You say negative and quite destructive way.
very, because they wanted to make the viva, to prepare me for the real viva in a very rough way, so I could prepare to meet all the arguments from Jack Whitehead. And I was totally devastated. I thought I wouldn't come through the viva. But then one of my friends in England telephoned me, and she said, forget about those, and she mentioned the names, and she said, forget about them. Tomorrow you're going to go in there and shine. And I thought, well, can I do that? And then, coming from Norway, you're not supposed to shine. And at 4 o'clock that night, before the viva, I woke up and I thought, you're going to go in there and shine? Yes, I'm going to do that. And then I just got up and I wrote the kind of schedule how I was going to face the examiners. And the thing that made all the difference was my internal, in the beginning of the examination, my internal examiner, Penny Lacey from the School of Education, said to me, when I start reading your thesis, I couldn't stop. And that encouraged me, and also this kind of life-affirming energy from this gentleman also helped a lot. And when I asked these two supervisors, because when I made it, they invited me for a lunch in the staff house. And then I asked them, what do you think about Jack Whitehead? And they said, oh, he's such a warm and nice person. And that was a good explanation of how it went so well.
Yeah, and what I'd love with Carrie, if you would make this now publicly available, you know, if you send it to me, I could put it on the web and we could send it to everybody just as a URL. So you could actually have a look and share it. And this would be part of the process I'm talking about. But you see, as well as I hope I'm kind of warm, a loving person, but I'm also pretty rigorous, you know, in academic knowledge. That Carrie's thesis, I don't just pass doctoral theses, you know, that they have got to actually make an original contribution to knowledge. And Carrie's thesis has done. But it comes from what you've just experienced. As Carrie said, I will shine, not arrogantly. And in Norway, you know, I've been taught I can't shine. It's not good to shine within the Norwegian context. Now this is something I think you will need to work on, because that life-affirming energy does shine. You know, it actually is a presence which you communicate. And there's just one point I will just make. We have social scientists, a lot of them, in education. And they sometimes try to take over what counts as educational research. Now, remember what I said at the beginning about the philosophers and the social scientists, controlling what counted as educational knowledge. One of our last presidents of our Educational Research Association, Jeff Whitty, we started work together. Jeff was arguing that we needed to change the name of the British Educational Research Association to the British Education Research Association. That this would then allow, this wasn't his argument, but this was underlying it, the social scientists to keep controlling the knowledge. Because if you retain educational, what is educational, you've got to really exercise your educational responsibility and to actually shine in terms of that energy and the values we're talking about. And the social scientists, I'm often approached by them, guaranteeing me anonymity, because this is what social scientists do. I then write back and say, well actually, for me this is unethical, because I require to be self-identified. In my research, it is a self-study of my own practice. I make claims to know my educational influence. I must be identified. So I write back when people are guaranteeing me anonymity to say, no, I take responsibility for my I being in the research and I wish to be identified. But I think you'll find that this happens a lot within the university. Even ethics committees within the university actually sometimes require anonymity. Now, one of the Canadian researchers had his research refused by an ethics committee. This was at Brock University. And they refused to allow him to do his practitioner research in the classroom. But what they couldn't do was stop him researching the effects of the ethics committee refusing to allow him to conduct his research. So his master's dissertation is all about the unethical behaviour of the ethics committee. Now, that's on my website in the values section. And you can get to these in the master's section. And also in the master's section, then I'll just stop to see if there's any final question. It's from Croatia, a master's dissertation by Elizabeth Granville that I've just put up there, which again is her question: how do I improve my practice in relation to literacy? And if you get into the master's section at the bottom, you'll see the dissertations. And look at Elizabeth Granville's, because that is from Croatia. It's the first one from Croatia, the living theory one, which she asked me if I put it up there last week. Is there any, just to finish now, and I'd love to finish with your voice, is there anything else that you're just feeling at the end that you'd just like to ask? Because it is getting to 5:30 and we now finish. So is there anything else, just with your voice?
When you say living theory, you mean a theory that is really lived and
yeah. Okay, no.
implemented.
Yeah, this is really important, this. A living theory is different from the propositional theory. A propositional theory is always in the form of generalizations. Yeah? Now, your living theory is your explanation of your educational influence in your own learning and the learning of others. It's a very different form of explanation. And every one of those dissertations and theses has got the I, how do I improve what I'm doing? And it is an explanation grounded in your values with that life-affirming energy that Carrie talks about. Now, if that's not clear, please do, over the next couple of days, just seek me out and ask for further clarification. And you can get me on my website, front page, my email's on there, so hopefully I'll hear about your accounts being created. Okay?
Thank you.